Welcome, everyone, to today's broadcast of Kingdom Keys to Business Success. I'm so excited today to introduce you to our speaker, Tara Geraghty. She is amazing, very inspirational. I got to hear some of her story when we talked earlier. So I'm really honored to introduce her and have her be a guest speaker today. She's someone who knows resiliency. She has gone through a lot in her own personal life and really has gone through the fire of what that means to have and experience resiliency. She is a survivor of domestic violence. She's had to walk the journey of being a mom of a stage 4 childhood cancer survivor. And she's had to learn how to build that strength, that hope, and to be able to move forward. And it really comes from her experience. So it's really amazing work she does. For almost 3 decades, Tara has led and inspired others, whether through TED Talks that she's done. She has a best-selling book called Making Cancer Fun, or her global community, Hey Girl, You Can. She's all about helping people rise up, build confidence, and see how the hardest parts of your life can actually become the foundation for lasting success. So, welcome, Tara. We're so excited to talk to you today. We would love to hear more about your personal journey of how you fell into this, how God led you into this season of your life and into entrepreneurship, and how your business developed.
Yeah, I'm so excited to be here because I just love what you're doing and what you're creating. And when I think about this, I've said many times now that I'm old, right? I think God kind of probably knew where my life was going to be headed and aligned things when I was much younger, knowing how I was going to need them when I was older.
Yeah.
And I didn't really appreciate that at the time, right? So
Right.
I grew up with a completely different background. My background is in theater. I was the kid who at 3 years old said to my mom I wanted to take ballet classes. My mom was like, "What?" Like, that's not my family's background. I was a competitive dancer. I did all the theater, all the drama, all that stuff. I went
Oh,
to college for that. I studied at the my degree in drama was sitting at the National Theater Institute. I mean, that was my career path. My first jobs were professional acting, professional choreographing.
oh, wow.
I thought that would be my life, right? And so but again, God is like, no, I have different plans for you. So I'm in my like first community theater production. I'm super excited. I'm like 19 years old. I didn't know how to do my makeup. And so it was a hot mess. They literally stopped the show. The guy was like, "What happened to your face?" I was like, "I did my makeup." He's like, "You need help." He had a friend who was in a direct sales business, who was a skincare and cosmetic makeup girl. And so introduces me to this woman. Divine intervention, right?
Yeah.
So I start using this product and she says to me, "You should do this business. This would be great for you. You could make extra money while you were in school." And I was in
Nice.
college and I was, working 2 other part-time jobs that weren't paying anything. And I thought, well, I like this product. It cleared my skin up. Sure. I have no business background. I've never taken a business class. If nothing else, I'll save money on my product. That's literally what
Yeah.
I'm thinking. And I remember my thought was, I'll do this till I graduate, get my real job, and then move on with my life. And so I kind of fall into this business very unplanned, right? And openly, if somebody had said, "Well, no, God's plan is this is what your career will be," I would have hightailed it out of there openly. I
Yeah.
would have been like,
Like, no.
"No, I got a different plan," right? So I ended up literally building this very successful direct sales business in my early 20s. I really loved it. I loved the women. I loved the community. Tell you, interestingly enough, a lot of my mentors were strong Christian women. So a big part of my Christian walk was through the influence of these women, which that in itself
Mm,
is totally wild, right?
yeah.
Because it was a company that was based on God first, family second, career third. And so
Yeah.
I had this
Mhm.
very strong influence of these very strong Christian mentors. So I now think I went through a season where I was really like, "Oh my gosh, is this going to be my life?" Like, I was so reluctant to let go of the identity that I had of I'm an
Yeah.
actress and I do theater and I do dance. And I had shared with you now, I'll share it with your listeners. I went to a retreat. I had been in the company and I was successful, but I wasn't at the top. I was in a good place where I was making really good money, but I was so unwilling. I had this one foot in and one foot out, one foot in my theater world and one foot in this business. And felt I just remember feeling like I just can't continue this way. Like, I'm not at the top. I'm a very driven person, but I can't let go of my other identity.
Yeah.
Um, and I went to this conference and I met this woman, and she was a leader in the company. And you could just tell that with every bone in her body, she was a very strong Christian and she really was like blooming where God had planted her, right? And I went to bed that night and I just prayed. And, this is so not biblically sound, but I was like, God, give me a sign.
Yeah.
Give me a sign. And it says in
We
the
all go
Bible,
through that.
you only need a sign if you're in disbelief. But that's where I was at. And I was like, look, if this is where you want me to be, then I need a sign for that. Like if I'm supposed to let go of this other identity and this is where you need to be, I have a sign. And if it's not, I will leave this company and people will be like, what the heck are you doing? Right. But I'm just so willing to walk wherever you want me to walk, but I just can't stay here in this land of mediocrity.
Yeah.
So I prayed for my sign. And so the next day we're at the conference and everything, and we're getting ready to go home. And this woman comes up to me and she says to me, I had to tell, she's on my team. And she goes, Tara, I have to tell you. She goes, I've never told you this story. She said, but the day that you met me, I had been sitting in my car with a bottle of pills in my hand. My plan was to go home that night and kill myself. And she's like, and I remember I saw you. You walked into a DSW. I was sitting in my car. I saw you walk into a DSW. And I remember looking at you thinking, wow, that woman looks like so put together. She looks like she's so happy. I wish I was her. And she's like, and I went out and I went into the DSW and you were in there. And she goes, and we ended up, and I do remember we ended up like talking there. And I actually probably was there thinking, like, I moved into this new state. I don't know anybody. I need to meet people. And I saw her and I thought she was really pretty. And I was like, hey, can I give you my business card? And I probably openly was really nervous to do that. Like, that was probably a huge step out of my comfort zone. Like, this
Yeah.
woman's going to think I'm crazy, but I'm just going to give her my business card. She's like, and you gave me your business card and you invited me to an event. And we became very good friends. She became a client. She ended up joining my team. She goes, and you literally changed my life. She goes, and I never told you, but my plan was to kill myself. And now because I met you and I have this business and everything, obviously she didn't kill herself,
Yeah.
right? And I remember being uh, like, what do you say to somebody,
Wow.
right?
Yeah.
Like I was so speechless. And so she shares and she goes, so I just wanted you to know. I wanted you to know the difference that you made in my life. And she goes on her way. And I walked into the bathroom and I'm standing there in this like, conference bathroom. And my hands were like on the counter and I'm looking in the mirror and I was like, holy smokes. Like
Yeah.
I asked for a sign. That was not what I expected. But like, boy, it was kind of like, in the Bible when they ask for the sign and fire and they're like
Yeah.
throwing water on the wood to be like, you want to see a
You
sign? I'll give
sure?
you
Yeah,
a
you
fire,
sure?
right? I was like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh. And I will tell you that moment was when I put 2 feet into my business. It was like, okay, God, if this is really where you plan to use me to impact people, I will stand here. And within a year, I moved up. I got to a top position. I was top 10 in the state because it was just that commitment of like, I'm going to go
Yeah.
all in, right? If this is where you want me to be. And I really then thought, okay, that's God's plan. This is where I'm going to be the rest of my life and I'm going to retire and this will be my life, right? Um, and then I went through a horrific season. I went through a horrific domestic violence divorce. I found out the person I had been married to basically was a very Lifetime movie. Like he wasn't a real person.
Yeah.
Like I found out my whole life had
Yeah.
been like a lie.
Yeah.
It was horrible. And then in the middle of that, my daughter gets stage 4 cancer, right? Like
Wow. Yeah.
what? She was
Horrible.
3. I will tell you that it was during that darkest season, though, that God was most active in my life.
Yeah.
I mean, when I tell you, like, act like the Bible came out, like, spoke to me in my face. So sometimes, that happens. Um, and after that season, I had a lot of people telling me, you need to write a book, you need to share what you did, because I had a bunch of tools that most parents don't have when their children have these crazy diagnoses, right? Like I had a background in improv and theater, and one of my first jobs was childhood theater, and then I had all this personal development from being in direct sales and mindset work and growth mindset. So I just had a tool set that most people don't have, right? Most people didn't have
Mhm.
the tools to be resilient, and I did. And so people said, you need to share this, you need to share this. And I was like, no, 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 I'm just going to go back to my life, back to my calling and my business, right?
Yeah.
Like we just get these ideas where God's like, no, right? And so a friend of mine said, well, look, okay, maybe you don't want to write a book. She's like, but we're all watching what you're doing. Everybody's like, involved here. She's
Yeah.
like, so just start recording. Just start recording what you did because maybe one day you'll write a book, but you'll forget. Like as time goes on, you'll forget. So just record it all. And I thought, well, that's valid,
Yeah.
right?
Great
Again, God
advice.
puts these
Yeah.
people, wise counsel, right? Like who are we
Mhm.
listening to, right? Wise counsel. So I said, okay. So I spent 6 months literally driving around my car with my voice recorder in my phone. And I would just record. This is what we did, and this is what we did, and this is how I handled this. And then I just put it away. and went on my merry way. Okay, God, I did what you like.
Yeah.
Don't we do this? Like, okay, I did what I wanted. I'm on my way, right? I have no idea if this is answering your question or not. But then I'm in the hospital. This is a couple years go by, right? I'm in the hospital and I'm with this mom. And it's like a movie, you know, when there's pivotal moments in your life, you remember them like a movie. And there was this little boy, and he had the same high risk stage 4 cancer that my daughter had. But my daughter was now in first grade, and she was not in full remission, but she was kind of, on the way out. And I was sitting with this mom, and this mom just had this look of terror and fear in her eyes. And of course, we sit down, and our whole thing was making cancer fun. So we're like, "Hi, what kind of cancer are you doing?"
Yeah.
And
Bubbly.
she's like, he's got stage 4 cancer. Well, anyway, this whole thing happened. And I went home that day and I realized, like, wow, there are people, this mom was she had no tools. She was so afraid. I can't imagine the fear that she was imposing on that child. And I'm like, and I know what I know. And if you have a business, it's probably because you have learned something or you figured something out that you needed, right? That's kind of how we start our business, right?
Yeah.
Like we
Yeah.
figured out something, we fill a need that we had, and then we start this business. And so I thought, well, I know these things because I did it with my daughter, and this
Yeah.
mom needs it. So I was like, oh, I guess I'm writing a book. Right.
Yeah.
And then I still wasn't sure. And so I prayed about it, and I was like, I don't have any money to write a book. Here I am, like trying to get my life back together. Um, but God again aligned people who kind of had like within a very short period of time. Because I was like, all right, God, I'll write a book, but you got to get like, I feel so embarrassed to say my level of disbelief. Give me another sign. Right.
Yeah, you just need that final confirmation,
Yeah.
like
And
you're in the
so,
right move.
yeah, so not the best, but so I had 2 signs within a week, and I went, okay, I guess I'm going to write a book. And it's so funny how these things spiral. Like, and God keeps we think we figured it out. We think we have the plan, and then God pivots us. And then we start walking down
Yeah.
that road. And then so from there, I built another business on, helping parents with medical stuff. And then from there, I built another community. Hey, girl, you can. And each of these pivots has been that God has been like, okay, I'm preparing you for that next step. I'm preparing you for the next step.
Yeah.
I think where we get stuck in our business is we're so like, this is the road. This is
Yeah.
the way I want it. And I think we miss out on a lot of actually incredible opportunities and blessings for that, you know?
Yeah, that's so true. Definitely our need to control and think that we know what's best. Absolutely. And then but that's
Yeah.
kind of where we get ourselves stuck because then we're second guessing and we're not really sure and we go back and forth and because we can't see where we're trying
Yeah.
to go. We always want to know the end result beforehand, and that's not how God works. He's like, you get one
Yeah.
step at a
Right.
time. One.
Wouldn't
It's
that be
I don't know.
great? And
Right.
I do
Yeah.
think that sometimes I have to, at least this is for me, I have to check myself a lot of, okay, is this God's verse or, voice? Is this his plan, or is this your personal like vanity narcissism? you know,
Yeah.
like which is this? Is this because of what you want for you, or is this really where he's leading you? And that's I think the harder part. I think I struggle more with that.
Yeah. What helped you? I mean, it seems like you got pretty good results with just asking for signs, which I'm going to have to do more of. But was there
Well,
some
it's
other
actually so
practice?
biblically
Yeah.
unsound. There is a verse in the Bible that says, like, you
Oh,
terrible
yeah.
generation of disbelievers always asking for a sign. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. Um, so I do think this. I think there's a different knowing, because usually when it's been something that's been more from God, for me, there's been a little bit of a resistance, a little bit of like, are you sure? I don't think that's what you
Mm,
want me to do.
yeah.
Where if it's something that's for me, it's usually more like, oh, this is going to be so good for me. This is going to get me this. This is what I'm going to get out of it. It's all about me, right? So that's definitely always been a little bit of a heads up. If I'm initially like,
Yeah.
huh,
Hmm.
why do I, want that? That's usually a sign that it's probably not my own self pride,
Yeah, I
keeping me there.
love that. That's really good fine detail is that God usually is pushing you a little bit into a space that's a little uncomfortable because he wants you to just
Yeah.
grow and move. And so it's kind of like, is this the right thing to do?
Yeah. So
So
I
yeah.
love this concept too. I talk about it being the God zone. So I talk about this a lot with the women that I coach. So we all have a comfort zone. And the way I picture my comfort zone is it's kind of like this cloud, this little umbrella cloud that's over me, not a gray, depressing one, but it's a little cloud or a little umbrella that protects me. It's over me. It's kind of like, this is like my space and this is my comfort zone. And this is where I know everything in the comfort zone. I know what's happening here. I can see like the results. This feels safe. I know if I do this, I'll get this. But if I step out from underneath that little protection, I'm not protected anymore. I'm in this unknown wild zone. There's like, could be lightning out there. There could be
Yeah.
sun that could burn me. Like I'm no longer protected. I'm no longer under this veil, but I call that the God zone. That's where the miracles happen. That's where the crazy things that you can't even explain. How did that opportunity show up? It's because you were willing to step out of your comfort zone, and you only get the miracles in the God zone. The miracles don't happen in the comfort zone. And so we have to be willing to step out of our comfort zone into this God zone to say, okay, God, I'm protected. I don't know what's happening on here. I'm not going to rely on you. I'm going to wait for you to show up. Like I'm willing to be out here in your world, like
Yeah.
show off to me, you know?
Yeah. Wow, I love that. That's a great analogy of just a visual of how we just want to stay under that umbrella. We don't, we do what feels good, but if you really want to achieve the results that you want and the calling that God has for you, you have to step outside of that. You have to be willing to learn. And
Yeah.
for you, what was something that you did to help with that process of being able to do that? Did God help you in a way?
To step out of that comfort zone.
Yeah. Mhm.
So I think, it's interesting. When I started my business, I struggled with my business felt like a roller coaster. And I don't know if this is for everybody, but this was for me. I felt like when people said yes, when people were buying, when people had sales, I was like a high. And I was right. But as soon as I hit disappointments, as soon as people would say no to me, people would like no show me, they would like stand me up. I mean, I remember this like I started my business before the cell phones. So I remember one time going to somebody's house for an appointment, like in the dark, in the rain, knocking on her door. She was home and didn't answer the door.
Oh
And I sat in
man.
my car and was like, "Ugh," right? I had like mean people who hung up on me, like this before caller
Yeah.
ID. And so when these things would happen, I would be down here. I'd be like so depressed. And I would think, oh my gosh, I could never do that. Like this is a full-time business because it was too up and down. My
Yeah.
emotions, which served me really well in theater, did not serve me so well in business. And I think what I had to really understand was that I had to understand that business was numbers.
Yeah.
And I had to understand that there's a certain amount of no's and rejection that just comes with business. And
Mhm.
it allowed me kind of get off the emotional roller coaster. So I don't know if that's so much connected to God. I think that um, there was a trust in like that business was math and business was numbers. And if I could understand the numbers, that I could take what felt uncontrollable and make it controllable. And that the God piece of it was more like, this is where I want you to work. And I think at a certain point in business, you do have to kind of trust that if you do the work and you do the work because it's not for you, but you're really working where God wants you to work, that He
Mhm.
will bless that effort. And what's
Yeah.
been interesting to me, and I've seen this over and over again, sometimes we're working over here and we're not getting results. But when we're being obedient, when we're doing the work that we're meant to do, all of a sudden an opportunity or result pulls up in another spot. And you're like, where did that come from? It came out of left field. And that's kind of this idea that I think, again, like let's just use an example of networking, right? You're out networking and you meet this person and you give this person an amazing connection that opens up a door from them. Well, in our human form, we like to think, well, if I give you a connection, you're going to give me a connection back. There's going to be a reciprocation, reciprocal,
Right.
whatever that word
Yeah.
is, right?
Mhm.
Reciprocal kind of event there. I give A, I get B back, right? And that doesn't happen, right? And so people are reluctant to give of themselves or to make these connections unless they can see what's in it for them. Right. But
Yeah.
if we show up with a spirit of servanthood and we're like, I'm just going to give, I'm going to help people, I'm going to make a difference, I'm going to connect people where they need to be connected. I'm not going to look what's in it for me. I believe that God's like, I see what you're doing. You're being obedient, and He's going to drop blessings over here that come out of
Yes.
left field that you think, where did that came from? It's still that energetic, like
Hmm.
reciprocal effect. It's just not from that person or from
Right.
that experience or from that opportunity. You have to trust that, like, God has your back,
Yeah.
you know? Um, and if you are doing the work that He has called you to do, even if you don't see the result from it, there will be blessings that come from it, but just in places you didn't anticipate.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely great. That's a great way of looking at it. Kind of like to think of it as God's big bank. And when we do the work, eventually we can cash out. It's just not going to be exactly where we think it's going to be. It's just going to be where God wants to
Yeah.
help you cash
And
out.
I think this is where we have to check our heart. We can't be doing the work with the intent of only doing this because I know you're going to cash me out on the other side. We
Right.
have to really come from like a servant heart,
Yeah.
trust, which is hard. Like that's hard to trust that like, hey, if I do this, there will, I will be taken care of. And then I always have to think to myself, well, God throughout history took care of his people, right? He feeds the birds. I'm more important than a bird.
Hmm.
He sent the manna. I'll send me some manna. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and like, do we really trust to that level?
Yeah. Exactly. I think that something that we get to experience and learn in that process is how amazing it feels to do that, how amazing it feels to give and not think about what you're getting back. There's just so much healing and beauty in that. That's what God wants us to feel. Like it feels really
Mhm.
good to give, you know? So,
Love that.
what do you think is one of the biggest things that you did, that you went through that God did help you heal in terms of that? Because you went through so many hard things.
Yeah, and I think, so I talk a lot about resiliency, right? I really have kind of a soapbox of that. I think resilience is the single most important skill that a human needs. And I think this as a parent. So my daughter's an only child. She only has me as a parent. And I always think, oh my gosh, if one day I'm gone, and which I hope, I pray that I will leave the earth before she does, right? Like all parents. Um, that what is the single most important skill that I hope she has? And I always think it's resilience because resilience is the ability that if you get knocked down, you can pick yourself back up.
Yeah.
Right. The word itself just means to spring forward, to like spring back. You get knocked down, you can pick yourself back up. So you can have confidence, you can have good work ethic, you can have good self esteem, but if you can't pick yourself back up when you get knocked down, like you're stuck. Right. And I think that a lot of people ask me, like, did you ever go through a season and when your daughter had cancer and you're like, why me? Why me? Why did God let this happen? And fortunately, I never had that question because I think it's a narcissistic question. Like it implies that I'm so special, I shouldn't have horrible things happen to me, but you should have horrible things happen to you. Right. Because
Right.
I don't think
Yeah.
any of us get through life unscathed. I think that
Right.
we all need to build resilience. And so for me, and here's the thing, right? Life gives us opportunities. The only way we build resilience is unfortunately to get hurt. So resilience is a muscle. And if you know anything about muscles and bodybuilder, if you want to build a muscle, the way you build a muscle is you have to work it to the point where the muscle fibers tear, they get damaged, and then they regrow back stronger. And then
Yeah.
you break them down again and they regrow, and that grows this muscle, right? I don't
Yeah.
have strong
Mhm.
muscles, but that is how you get a muscle. You have to damage the muscle, you have to hurt the muscle, you have to tear the muscle for it to
Yeah.
regrow stronger. That's how life is.
Yeah.
Life has to break us down to regrow stronger. Like we have to have opportunities to be resilient. Otherwise, we never get to be resilient, right? So, like, I had to go through these hard things that really stunk. Who wants to go through pain? Who wants our kids to go
Mhm.
through pain? Like, this is unfortunately why we have some weak kids because they never had to go through any pain. We just protected them so much that they
Yeah.
never had to build this muscle. So, it's sad to say, but like, you have to kind of get hurt to get strong. Right.
Yep.
And
Yep.
so I think there were some things in that season that made a huge difference. I will tell you probably the biggest one. I have so many soapboxes. This is another one. Is that I went through this season where my daughter gets diagnosed with cancer, our insurance company drops us, and the contract that I had just gone through months of negotiation to kind of pull me out of my financial devastation after my divorce, the owner literally dropped dead all in like the span of 4 days.
Whoa.
And I just remember being like, oh my gosh, everything around me is like falling apart, right? Like, what do I even do with this life? Um, but I knew from my personal development work that what we focus on gets bigger. And so I started, well, I can't, God's like, all about love, love. I'm like, right now I'm not loving anybody, but like, let's be real, right? So I decided instead to start a gratitude practice. And I started every night just listing the things that I was grateful for. And the secret for me was they had to be things really within the last 24 hours. They couldn't be big things like my health, my home, job. They had to be like, what were the little things, little insignificant things that had happened that I could be grateful for? And I would write them down. And I started this practice and literally would do it every single night. And it was God really it wasn't a spiritual practice, right? It wasn't but it became a spiritual practice because in looking at all those things to be grateful for, you see all the things that God is doing in your life were little things that maybe you would never notice that you become so incredibly grateful for. And the more you notice that, guess what? There's more things to notice, right?
Yeah.
And so
Mhm.
God really used that season to kind of grow me in a place of grace. Also, when your whole life falls apart, like I always say, it was kind of like having the rug pulled out of me, but it was so great because I spent my whole life trying to look like I had it together. All of a sudden, I'm totally on the floor, like naked on the floor, people.
Yeah.
Life is falling apart around me, right? I didn't have to look like I had it together anymore. And that was very freeing. Like
Yeah.
I no longer look like I have it together. I feel like all of us,
Mhm.
we are just a hot mess just trying to get through the day. Like, let's be real.
Yeah.
Right? And so there is freedom in I never have to look like I have it together again. Right. So God, like, there was so much that He like almost got undone, like had to pull apart for me to get to a place where it was like, okay, I'm just here. I had a friend say to me, because people say when you're going through hard times, oh, God doesn't give you what you can't handle. You've heard that saying, right?
Oh yeah.
I hate that saying. Don't ever say that to somebody. Let's get rid of that. It's a hurtful saying because I remember I would think to
Mhm.
myself as 15 people said this to me, right? Oh, so I'm a strong person. So that's why I get the kid with cancer. Thanks, God.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
lovely, right?
No.
And a friend of me, she said, my past, because I told her that, I said, I just hate when people say this. It makes me like, "Ruh." And she said, my pastor says that it's not that God gives you what you can handle, it's life gives you things you can't handle so that you have to rely on God.
Oh yeah.
And
I
I
love
was
that so
like,
much better. Yeah.
ooh, yeah, okay, we're on the same boat, God. I
Yes.
cannot handle
Yeah.
this, but if you can handle it, I'll hitch
Hmm.
myself to you, right?
Yep.
And it was that. It was a season of like, I cannot handle this, God. I have to like turn this over to you. And so there was so much of that. Um, letting go of my pride, learning to be grateful, learning to trust and like be happy in the moment. I didn't know if my daughter was going to live or die. Like you have to just get to a place where you're so happy and peaceful in that moment. Um, there were so many gifts. It was the worst, horrible, darkest season of my life. It lasted 6 years. But there were so many gifts, and it grew me so much as a person that I became an unrecognizable person on the other side from who I was initially. Like, I'm so
Nice.
grateful for
Yeah.
that. Not that I would ever want to go through it. I hope you never have to go through it. I would never want to go through it again. It breaks my heart that my daughter had to go through that, but
Yeah.
I can see so many gifts that came out of that dark season.
Yeah. Yeah. That is definitely a beautiful testimony. And I know it's everyone has their opinion, kind of a what God does, what what part he plays in things. But one
Yes.
thing I think we know for sure is that he wants you to rely on him and love him so that he can help you. And if you can do that, if you partner with him, whether it's in business or for your during any kind of healing process, he will be there to help you out of it. So I feel like
Yeah.
looking less about how it happened, why it happened, it's really kind of irrelevant. It's what can I take now from this and how can I improve my life and improve other people's lives through it with God? And that's the journey that he wants you to focus on. So,
No, right? Like we know that there's sin. We live in a fallen world. We know
mhm,
that there's demonic influences around us. Like it's
right.
not like we know that this is part of this human experience. And so that looking for that, I totally agree. Like looking for the what is the cause, like, well, that's just a rabbit hole we're never going to come back from.
Right, exactly. Yes,
Yeah.
so I love it. Thank you so much. So I definitely want people to know how to reach you if they want to learn more about you have access to your community or check out your book. So I know you have a
Yeah.
freebie for learning about resiliency. So
Do because
tell us
I
a
so
little
want
bit
people
about
to
that.
have these tools. And I
Yeah.
realize I'm just very lucky that I had them at a season in my life that I needed them. I think you
Yeah.
want to learn these tools before you need them,
Yeah.
right? So I have a 5 day resiliency challenge. I will drop in your email every day for 5 days. We'll hang out for 20 minutes. It's an audio, and I'm going to teach you the very specific tools that I used during these really dark seasons. They might help you on a personal level, but they're also going to help you in business because in business, you got to be resilient. Like there's
Oh
a
yeah.
reason a lot of businesses fail because people do not know how to pick themselves back up when they're disappointed, when they're frustrated, when things don't go the way that they planned. But and I love this concept. Imagine if you were so resilient that literally it did not matter who knocked you down. It didn't matter how hard you got knocked down. It didn't matter how bad that fall was. If you knew you could pick yourself back up. Like, what risks would you be willing to take? What things would you say yes to? What dreams would you go after simply because you knew that no matter what, you could pick yourself back up, right? So,
Right.
this is where I get really excited because I think that women are powerful. I think that you're here to make a difference and a purpose. And if you can believe that you can pick yourself back up. So, we're going to work together for
Yeah.
5 days. Every day, I'm going to teach you a skill. You're going to build an arsenal, have a tool belt that you are going to become the most resilient, most powerful person that you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Amazing. I highly, highly suggest everyone grab this. I've been a marriage and family therapist for 16 years, and you actually reminded me that I did my thesis on positive psychology and resiliency. So I 100% believe the power of it because there's so many studies out there that prove having resiliency will can dramatically change the outcome of your life. I mean, families being able to survive traumatic events, being able to get through uh, diagnoses that are very challenging. I mean, all the things that you've experienced, that having that resiliency is it will just transform the way that you see the world and the way you're able to step into your calling. So everybody definitely grab it. You're going to see the link in the email. And if you have the VIP package, you're going to see it in there too. So thank you so much, Tara, for your testimony and your story. And it's just really amazing how much you have been able to transform the tragedies in your life into something beautiful that really helps people be able to overcome their own personal things and then turn that into their own testimony too. So,
I appreciate that. I think we all have really dark things. We just don't always talk about it. I will leave you
um,
guys with my prayer for you. It is my favorite quote. It's what hangs on my wall. It's what I live my life by. And if this resonates with you, come hang out with me and find me and be in my space. But it is my prayer for you today. It's by Irma Bombach. I'll read it to you. She says, "When I stand before God at the end of my life, I would hope that I would not have a single bit of talent left. And I could say, I used everything you gave me." And so I truly hope that you go out and use every single bit of talent that God has given you because that is how you are going to change the world.
yes, I love that. I love that. Thank you so much, so much. So, everyone, please join her challenge, get that, and make sure to tune back in. Tomorrow, we're going to have more speakers on our Kingdom Keys to Business Success show. And I just want to end by saying, remember, you are blessed to build, called to serve, and graced to prosper. Thank you so much, and have an amazing rest of your day. Bye, everybody.